Hi everyone. So this is the part 2 of the NestJS with Auth0 integration. In the part 1, we simply talked about what is Auth0, how it really works, and what we are going to talk about in the NestJS with Auth0 integration. Like how you can configure the simply Auth0 application so you can have simple authentication mechanism enabled for your React Next.js application on the client side. So this was our Auth0 profile. Here I have created these applications which I'm going to configure on the React, Angular or Next.js project so that I should be able to get the Auth0 login screen where you can enter your login username password or log in with the social providers. So what we are doing here is we have already configured a UI client with Auth0 and we just simply have either Angular application, React application, or Next.js application. I mean, it can be CSR, SSR, SvelteKit, any kind of interface. Can be SSR or can be CSR. It needs to be some application which has configured Auth0 profile like Auth0 application, client ID and a secret. And once you do the login with the Auth0, then it is redirecting you to the login screen like login, and you can also configure the social providers like login with the Google, Twitter and all through Auth0. Okay, so in response what you will get a token. Now this token you need to carry to your Auth0 app, and that token I need to provide to my NestJS APIs because that token has been granted by Auth0 and I will be validating the token in my NestJS application. So this is just an NestJS request lifecycle. Okay, what happens when the request came? You hit a middleware, guard, interceptors, pipes and controllers, and you will be sending these authorization header in this bearer token in the authorization header. So NestJS application, NestJS APIs will receive it that way. And you already have either you can configure a middleware or a guard. This is best place is the middleware because that's an entry point. In the middleware, you will validate couple of things that we are going to talk in this session. First of all, check for the validity that authentication token is valid or not. So these are few things you will be validating, getting the access token from the authorization header, validate JWT token access token, check if token is valid, check if token is not expired, then decode the token because token contains the data which contains the user session information. Then return the token payload and set that payload decoded information from the token to the request. So how would you get in the NestJS application like who is the logged in user, what is the user ID, what is the user email, what is the Auth0 ID. So that is a session information. Once you decode, once you validate, okay, token is valid, you can just simply decode it, and that decoded JavaScript object you can set on the request object. So in my NestJS application in the APIs, I want to know who is the logged in user. That I can come to know through that request.user. So you can configure the guards then. So in the NestJS application, we are going to have two things, middleware and guard. Now try to understand what both the things will do. Middleware will just validate if token is valid. Okay. Then guards are the route guards which you can configure for role based access control. You can particularly say, okay, this particular create API is not allowed for the admin, maybe allowed for the admin but not for the creator, user or administrator. So you can have a role based authorization also that you can configure through the guard activation guards or role guards. Okay, so we are going to use middleware and these role guard or activation guards. So here middleware will set the detailed information about role in the request.user object. Once you got the user, so what is this request.user? Request.user is actually a session information. Request which flows through everywhere, right? And what we are doing is on the request object, we are setting the user object. I mean, this is how we do in the simple express middlewares. We set the request.user. Similarly, here on the request.user, we are setting the user session on the request object. So wherever you go, I will always have, okay, who are you? Who is this logged in user? What is his email? What is the role? So that information will be everywhere in the whole application. That is the job of the middleware. Now guard will come into the picture. Guard will check, okay, this route is allowed for the admin. Let's check who is the current logged in user. Should I allow it or not allow it? That will be decided based on the role which is there in the decoded token. So these are the 6 steps we are going to perform. Configure the client app, Next.js, React, Angular with the Auth0, access token at the client side. You log in with the Auth0 screen, you will get the access token, send access token in the authorization header, add a middleware in the Express app or NestJS app, validate token against Auth0 tenant, and return the decoded token data in the user session. So this is my existing Auth0 app. When I do the login, then it is asking me to log in with Auth0, and I choose login with the Google. Okay, so what it will do is it will has created my session in the NestJS application. In the NestJS app, I'm using NestAuth. In the NestAuth, you can configure the Auth0 client ID and a secret. So that's a simple setup, right? I will also show you the code, but our objective is to deal with the NestJS APIs, how they are validating the token. On the client end side, either you use React or NestJS. Configuration is very simple. Here we are using NestAuth. So you just need to provide in the NestAuth auth middleware, like in the auth route.ts, you just need to provide a Auth0 client ID and a secret. So this is how you will do the login. Now, what application I'm configuring? This is my application. Here is my client ID and a secret ID, which I have configured in the client end side code. So this is the place where all the users will be managed, and here you can check the whole user profile. It has the email ID and all the roles. Roles also you can manage through the Auth0, and this is your tenant name, tksharma.auth0.com, and this is your signing keys. This URL we are going to use later. This is very important. These are the signing keys against which we are going to validate our token. So you might remember that auth0.jwt JSON Web Token is a library, jwt.sign and jwt.verify. In jwt.verify, we also pass the secret key. Similarly, this signing key is the secret key to verify the token created by Auth0. So here I'm using one existing application, restaurant APIs. It's just a restaurant CRUD. Okay, it has a controller, and I will be adding the auth guard. So this is where we are going to place our logic. Apply auth middleware to all except the public health check route, right? So we have all the other APIs. I'm going to add the this middleware. So what this middleware is doing? This middleware is checking at line number 12 that authorization header is passed. Second is at line number 18, we are validating the token. If the token is valid, everything is fine. We just need to do the next, call the next method. Otherwise, we will throw simply is authentication token is invalid, right? That we will be just changing. We need to write the code. We will just say unauthorized user. So for that, now we need to modify this method auth0 authorization service.init, right? This health check works, so our application is working. This search also works. Here, search is not working because we are not passing the authorization header, right? So that's a basic thing. First of all, you need to pass the token. Then second step is we will validate the token, and then we will tell you, okay, token is valid or not. If token is invalid, then we will send unauthorized user. But for now, you are not passing the token. So here from the authorized top, I will just pass the dummy token. Here it is missing auth header. Auth header is not being passed. So let me check what is wrong. Okay, now it is sending me properly here. So now this authorization header as a bearer is being passed, and it is sending me unauthorized user. That means that method who is validating the token is sending it. You are still passing the token, but token is invalid. So there is a different status code and different message. Now we need to just write this logic, okay, how to validate the token. So this is what we are going to modify in the init method. So in the init method, what you are getting? You are getting the access token. So first of all, you will get the token from the authorization header. So this is the only code which is important, because what it is doing is it is decoding, first of all, getting the token, because you are getting bearer and token string. So the token string is the second part of the string separated by the space. So you just need to get the second part of the token. That will be the actual access token you will get. And then there is a method you can write decode. So get token is just giving you the second part of the original token string. And here we are just doing a decoding the token. So here we need to use these separate libraries to validate. So JSON Web Token, simple, you already aware. JWKS RSA, this is JWKS client for Auth0 to validate the token. So JWS client, and here you need to specify to get the signing keys actually, because JWT provide these signing keys So here you need to specify a couple of arguments, like what is the signing URL from where you are going to get a signing keys, rate limit, how many signing API calls, because this is nothing but an API call, internal API call to Auth0 to get a signing keys. And this is the cache and request per minute you can pass. So this is the library for that. These are a couple of constants. So here we have configured the client, JWKS client, which is going to validate our token string, which we have already extracted from the bearer. So here we are just promisifying the client.get signing keys. So from this signing keys, here we are doing a decode token, which is extracting what is inside a token. So we can use a JSON web token for that. gwt.decode, that is a simple method, JSON true. So if decoded is there, so inside decode token also there is a header, because the JWT token has a header, body, and so if decoded is null or the header is null or key ID is not there, that means invalid auth token. It is not following the Auth0 token format. We will just send unauthorized. So here we will do get signing keys, decode.header.keyid. This should be async method, so we need to put async function. So we'll get a get signing keys. We got the key from the get signing key method, and we are passing the decode.header.keyid. Before that, we have already decoded the token, which is nothing but what token contains, the token payload. And here we will get await get signing keys. We need to async the init method for that. So now we have async method, async init, and then key.public key or key RSA public key. So we got the signing key. So this is signing key is nothing but a secret against which we are going to verify the token. Even in the JSON web token you have is actually gwt.verify, right? There are two ways, gwt.sign, but we are not signing this token. Auth0 is creating this token by signing it. What we are doing only here is gwt.verify, right? That is verify against a signing key, and we just have a token string and we are just verifying it. So this whole middleware is just using this method verify to verify this token against the signing keys provided by Auth0. So we have this verify method separate. What this verify method is doing is simply we passing token string and a signing key and the decoded payload object, because once the verification is done successfully, we just need to return the decoded payload. So here it becomes just a 2 lines of code, jw.verify, token string and signing key. If there is any error, it will return just unauthorized, because it will go into the catch block. If the verification is done successfully, you just return the decoded payload object. Now the remaining thing is what you want to return in the session. I mean, decoded has a whole lot of information. You just maybe wants to return only the Auth0 ID, email, all the role or user metadata or auth metadata, these kind of information, not the whole decoded token. So now we will configure this init method here in the middleware. Now we are calling the init. If it is successful, then we will just call the next middleware. But if any error is thrown from the init, it is internally throwing the unauthorized exception. And here we are going to set the user session request.user equal to user ID. So we will get copy the token. So just copy the token and set that token in the authorization headers, and here hit your APIs, and you can see my APIs are successful. I'm getting the appropriate response. I'm able to create or access the routes. That means I'm getting this middleware is passing that. So here is the whole payload which we are getting after doing a successful decode. I mean, first verification is done successfully, then we are getting this decoded payload, and this is what we need. From this we just need, I think, the email, the roles information, and maybe Auth0 ID, because this contains the header which has a KID, payload, given name, nickname. We don't need all the information. We just need to tell our backend application that, okay, this is the email of the logged in user and this is the role of the logged in user. This session information is more than enough to authorize at auth guard and to do any operations or extract the information using email. Because here we are not storing any user ID and all. Everything is managed by Auth0. So we still have a Auth0 ID here, which we can use if we want to store or reference in our microservice. So this is the whole data, but maybe we don't need the whole information. We can just use the payload while returning the decoded object. So here Inside this decoded, we don't need to return the whole object. We can target a specific things which we wanted to set inside the request.user information. Here the session information is the complete payload, right? So even from the session, we can choose what all information we wanted to set on the user session. So finally, we are setting only this much information. This has a role which is an empty string, given name, nickname, name, picture, email. I think this information is more than enough to validate user, and we also going to populate the roles for role-based authorization using Auth0. So that's it. Let's take a look on authorization. This is the authentication, which is just checking, okay, user token is valid, and I don't have any auth guard enabled, so it will allow you to access all the APIs. But later we are going to add auth guard where we can have a role-based authorization, and not all the routes will be allowed for a particular role. That we are going to do in the next video.